Welcome to School of Pop, where curiosity meets pop culture. I'm Kat Monroe, your host and study buddy in all things entertainment. And this semester, we're exploring the ethics of being a fan.
Basically, I ended up spending $10,000 at this Harry Styles concert.
$393 per ticket. For me to take my two daughters, it would be close to $1,000.
I'm sick of seeing these VIPs that are so expensive with zero artist interaction. Nobody does sound checks anymore. Nobody does meet and greets anymore. It's all just either this merch that you get or this pre-party that is not worth the crazy amount of money that you're spending.
Do you want to see the outsiders from the front row? You can. It's going to cost you literally $450 after fees.
To ensure that they get to Taylor Swift, Silva purchased new tickets on a new site for a whopping high price.
Approximately $21,000. Puts me back a little bit.
Being a fan is expensive. Whether it's concerts, Broadway shows, conventions, streaming services, or merch drops, the price of fandom just keeps rising. In class today, we're talking money. How do fans navigate these rising costs? And what role does the industry play in shaping fandom spending habits? Can you be a passionate fan and financially responsible? We're going to attempt to answer these questions. To help, we'll be joined by Alejandra Rojas, a financial educator who's going to break down how to keep your finances in check, and Kristal Terrell, a seasoned concert goer with smart budgeting tips from the front lines of live music. Today, we're talking about the financial aspect of being a fan. And this is something I'm super excited about chatting about because I feel like it's not something that we commonly discuss when we discuss fan culture and fan behavior. And I think it's one of the most important parts of fan culture. But before we get into budgeting tips or financial advice, I want to talk about the why. Why do fans spend? Now, I'm not a consumer psychologist, but I am a fan who likes to spend. And from my experiences and what I've seen online, I think there are a few big reasons that we can at least point to. So I want to start there. The first thing, enjoyment. At the most basic level, fandom brings us joy. And when something brings you joy, it's natural to want more of it. Whether it's that concert ticket or a limited edition vinyl, you're not just spending on a product, you're spending on a feeling. I think most of the time, if I'm spending on something fan-related, it's either going to be tickets to a concert or a Broadway production or vinyl. I buy a ton of vinyl, and people that collect, they know that's no longer a cheap hobby. With those being the primary three things that I spend money on as a fan, every now and then, my mom will say something to me like, "Stop making these people richer." And I'm like, I get what she's saying. One of my favorite artists, Taylor Swift, is a literal billionaire just off of her music career alone, which is insane. So when I buy her merch or her concert tickets, I guess technically by the book, I am giving her money to make her richer. And it's funny I use Taylor Swift as an example because she's not even really somebody that I throw a ton of money at. And I know that's a big person that a lot of people do because she has all the vinyl variants. She just came off a huge tour. And I mean, I went to the Eras tour twice, but I really lucked out. I paid face value both times. And for me, that was $125, $130 a ticket. So I was really lucky, but still. I don't see paying for fan experiences or fan merchandise to be a donation. It feels very transactional. I'm going to get something in return that's going to bring me joy. It's going to excite me. I feel fulfilled after doing it in a way that's no different than anything else I purchase in our capitalistic society. I love Raising Cane's. The CEO of Raising Cane's is probably a multimillionaire. But when I pay $14 for a box combo, it feeds me. I don't sit there thinking, wow, I just made this man richer. I'm satisfied. And of course, food is a need and entertainment is more of a want. And we'll be talking about that balance a little bit later. But I mean, at the end of the day, we do kind of need entertainment to bring us joy, even if it's just every once in a while, even if it's not all the time. So when I buy something that's fan related, yeah, I'm spending, but you're also getting something in return. And so that enjoyment, that's what makes it worth it. And I think that's one of the first big drivers of fan spending. The second thing that I think drives fan spending is access. Sometimes spending is a way to feel closer to something, whether it's the artist, the show, or even just the community. So that could mean a meet and greet where you can actually talk to and speak to your favorite artist, going to multiple tour stops and subscribing to a Patreon, or even buying merch that gets you noticed online. It's like the more that you spend, the more that you can feel like you've earned your place. It kind of ties into some of what we discussed in our concert etiquette episode, that front row or no row mentality. It's like the closer to the artist, the better energy. Must pay $300 to be in the pit so we can make eye contact and my TikTok can go viral. Like, that's the access that I'm talking about here when I say that drives fan spending. It's like you could pay $50 and be in the room if that's all you can afford, or you can pay $500 and go in debt, but say that you were front row in the pit. I also used to see this online pretty often and still do sometimes, but there are some artists out there whose street teams or fan club pages, they'll really only interact with or engage with fans who are being those active purchaser participants. And it's not just with purchasing, I guess. We see this with streaming parties or voting for awards, but also with who buys merch or tickets to a tour. It's like, show us your receipt, your cart for a retweet. And back in the day, these notices used to be really important. They used to be like real currency. Like, it seems so stupid to talk about now, but it was such a thing. And I'm really happy to say those days are like long, long behind me. But I can't lie. It's embarrassing to admit, but I will admit, I remember being in high school and going to the Target to take a photo with an album just to post it on Twitter and be like, I just got the album. And I was never really a big music purchaser. I was always somebody that would like stream or buy instead of buying physical music. So it wasn't even a thing for me, but I was like, I wanted to retweet too. And I mean, it sounds silly, so I'm just going to clarify that I am talking about Taylor Nation. So if you know, you know. So I guess it wasn't just even retweets back in the day, because every like or retweet or notice you got from Taylor Nation was like an entry into the secret session lottery. And that's what I'm really talking about. Like, who didn't want that? But yeah, totally a thing. Access. And then the third reason, kind of tying it into that access idea, is status. The fans who sit in the front row, who buy every merch drop, who travel to every show, they get visibility. And I keep bringing up this theme, and we are going to have that episode. I keep teasing at the episode. It's coming in like 3 weeks. We will talk about the hierarchies and the competition and how fandom is community. And sometimes you spend to become a part of that community and feel like you're proving yourself, like you're a bigger fan because of how many shows you go to and things like that. So I'd also say that's something that's very common. I still somehow, I'm not even in the Gracie Abrams fandom, and I get so many TikToks of people talking about this stuff all the time on my For You page. And I'm like, I don't even interact over there. I don't know how I'm getting it. They must know I'm doing this podcast. But anyways, I get them all the time. So that's another thing. And we will be talking about that as I keep mentioning. With all of these things driving fan spending, I think for fans, the important thing to always remember and to know is that the industry knows this as well. Artists and companies know how emotional fandom can be. They've mastered this art of the limited vinyl variants, the exclusive bundles, the 24-hour merch collections, collectibles, exclusive fan pre-sales, VIP packages that don't even include artist participation anymore, bonus content for subscribers only, big incentives. I mean, I'm going to go and do a little throwback, but I remember, like, for example, talking about like going to the store just to like take pictures with albums. Shawn Mendes one time, he had golden tickets in his album to encourage bulk buying. And so people were buying out the albums because whoever got the golden ticket inside the album, they got to meet him. So imagine like people buying multiple copies of the same album just for the chance to meet an artist. So stuff like that, it's like they know that the fans are passionate enough. They encourage and cultivate relationships with fans to make them more passionate because it drives that fan spending, because fans do drive the industry. And that's so important to remember and keep in mind. As we talk about the entertainment industry, it's key to remember that it is an industry first, and they know how to market and package up all of this stuff really nicely. And it always works because fans care and because fans want to support the things they love. It's not just a marketing trick, it's an economic engine. I checked out this recent article from Bustle. It's titled, "Sorry, Wall Street, Fangirls Run the Economy." I'll link it in our class notes on Substack. Writer Kelly Wynn said, "We've exited the attention economy and entered something less transient, the fangirl economy." She highlights how fandom isn't just powerful, it's profitable. For example, Taylor Swift's Eras Tour. A special report found that her 6 shows at SoFi Stadium generated over $320 million in tourism revenue for Los Angeles County alone. Beyoncé's Renaissance Tour had similar results. Hotels in Houston made over $18 million in just one weekend. And economics even credited Beyoncé's Stockholm tour stop with contributing to Sweden's national inflation rate. Now, in this article, Jamie Cohen, a media studies professor, explains it like this. A small group of passionate users is far more valuable than millions of flash-in-the-pan trend followers. So when fans are rushing to buy merch, concert tickets, vinyl variants, or pre-sale bundles, it's not by accident. The system is built on fan passion. The more you love something, the more you're expected to buy in. And that's what makes all of this so complicated. Because yes, it's love, it's care, but it's also business. And that means that fans need to recognize this and understand this to make sure they aren't giving too much of themselves or their financial state is falling apart for an industry at the end of the day. As I alluded to in our intro, the industry is also becoming increasingly inaccessible just in terms of how much things are starting to cost. So I wanted to also, in this discussion, sit down and just look at how much it costs to be a fan. A 2023 Qualtrics survey found that 42% of Gen Z consumers are spending more on live concerts than before the pandemic. And a New York Times report in 2022 highlighted how some fans are signing up for credit cards just to afford tickets to their favorite artists. And most recently, there was all this discourse online about this new report that found that 60% of people who bought tickets to Coachella did so using a buy now, pay later program. More than half, they did not pay out of pocket immediately for their tickets. And that's very common with a lot of music festivals, and that's something we'll be talking about a little bit later. Before the pandemic, I literally relied on resale to go to shows. The week before a concert, I knew I could trust that resale prices were going to go all the way down, like under face value. I saw Sabrina Carpenter in concert for $9 in 2019. I bought resale tickets to see Harry Styles off StubHub for $25 in 2018. Like, this was so normal back then. Even if they were a small artist, you were paying like $5 or $6 if the tickets were originally $40. And then the bigger artists, like $25, like I just said for Harry Styles. Resale was the way to go because it always ended up being less than face value. But now, resale isn't cheaper. It's often way worse. Taylor Swift's Reputation tour, for example, had an average resale price of $150. Now, that was back in 2018. For the Eras Tour, the average resale price was $3,800. That is a 2,300% jump. And the reality is there's just not enough regulation out there to stop the scalpers. And this is just a reality for every artist on tour. Every artist just has these crazy resale prices. According to Consumer Price Index data from the Bureau of Labor Statistics, admissions to movies, concerts, and theaters have all increased 20% since 2021. Now, experts say that post-pandemic, it's a combo of inflation, production costs, dynamic pricing, and high demand. Artists also make their salaries primarily from touring in the wake of this huge streaming era. So sometimes the artists or venues, they set those prices high themselves. And I mean, even face value prices are wild now. I mean, last year, I tried to get Olivia Rodrigo tickets during the original drop for her Guts tour, and the lowest ones I saw were $400 before fees. I immediately closed the tab. Like, I laughed. Like, I wanted to see her so bad, but it was crazy. I eventually did get some tickets, though, and it was in a later last-minute drop. I paid $250 for a pair, but you guys, guess what? It was an obstructed view. So that's where we are now. And, fees, they add up on top of all those prices. Then we also have merch, $60 candles, $75 sweatshirts, $40 vinyl records, and there's multiple variants to collect. And guess what? If you miss them because you want to wait and they sell out, resellers are going to flip them for double. And then, of course, there's concert VIP packages, which post-pandemic, most of them do not include any sort of artist interaction, like a meet and greet, a Q&A, or sound check. You would usually see those before the pandemic. And of course, I don't fault artists for realizing they don't want to do things like that. Obviously, that might be draining when they're already giving a show. But I found that they're still charging artist interaction prices for these VIP packages just for early entry and like a tote bag or like some cheap piece of merch. And it's like, those are also costing fans hundreds of dollars. Also, over on Broadway, right now, prices for shows are skyrocketing, especially when big name actors are involved. Let's look at this current season because I'm talking $900 for Othello with Denzel Washington and Jake Gyllenhaal. Kieran Culkin is in Glengarry Glen Ross right now, $574. George Clooney's Good Night and Good Luck is $272 if you want to sit in the back row, and $600 if you want to secure a front and center spot. Even The Picture of Dorian Gray with Sarah Snook, $450. And these are all numbers from a New York Post article that also talks about how not worth it these prices are. In fact, the writer of that article, Johnny Oleksinski, he calls it a war on your wallet. If you collect playbills, these are not always cheap also. I mean, I once spent $50 on eBay to get a pre-Broadway Boston Moulin Rouge playbill to complete my collection. And you know what? I love that I have it. But for example, obviously, even signed playbills cost so much more. So people that collect these things or are into collectibles of any sort, that's not cheap either. Tickets to Comic-Con and all the fan conventions keep rising. And I mean, if you're doing autographs or photo ops, then you're really paying a lot of money on top of that. Or if you're doing cosplay and you have to pull all your pieces together, I mean, easily hundreds of dollars. If you're going to sporting events, or if you have all these different streaming services, or even if you just go to the movies, all of it expensive. There's also travel with all of this, fans going to multiple dates, if you're following a concert tour, if you're doing a full weekend for a convention, traveling to New York to see Broadway. It all adds up. Flights, hotels, food, ride shares. The ticket might end up being the cheapest part a lot of the time. No matter where you look, participating in the entertainment economy, it's not cheap. It costs to have a good time in the pop culture world, and the financial barriers can create a sense of exclusivity that leaves many fans who can't keep up financially feeling left out or stretching their pockets in ways they honestly cannot. But enough on the price reminders. If you're here, you're probably a fan. You know it's expensive. You know you're going to spend. The question is, how do we navigate it better? To start, I wanted to share a bit about my own spending journey as a fan. In middle school and in high school, obviously, I didn't have a job. My family would buy me a ticket or two to concerts I wanted to go to if it was something I really, really wanted. But mostly, I had to take things into my own hands because I'm a fangirl and I never wanted to miss out. So what ended up happening is radio contests and sweepstakes, they became my full-time job. If there was a concert I wanted to go to, I was getting in for free. Call-ins, text-ins, online forums, Twitter contests, show up at this store and drop your name in a box. I was going to find the contest and I was going to go and I was going to win. I won a lot. If you're from the DMV, anytime between 2017 and maybe late 2019, you may have easily heard my voice on the radio saying, "Thank you so much." And that's me winning tickets to see Shawn Mendes on air. I've met Shawn Mendes, the Jonas Brothers, Halsey, Troye Sivan, Charlie Puth, Khalid, so many big artists, and so many artists I've seen in concert, all for free thanks to radio contests. One time, my mom and I even drove 5 hours each way to a tiny radio station way out in the middle of nowhere, Virginia, just because it was the only station I could get my calls through in to win Taylor Swift tickets, and I won, and this was for Rep Tour. And I remember when we finally made it to this station to pick up the tickets, they were literally like, "We did not think you were going to show up." And I'm just like, no, this is what I do. Another time, I won 10 soundcheck tickets to see 5 Seconds of Summer, and I was just giving them out to my friends at school. I really just became known as the lucky girl who went to every concert for free at school. But once I got to college and started working, things shifted. I didn't have time to hunt contests anymore, but I did have a job and I did have money. So I started spending. And even though it felt good to finally be in control, to not have to hustle for every opportunity, it definitely took some time adjusting. Because I went from being super disciplined and I'll only go if I can get a cheap ticket off of StubHub resale or if I win tickets for free, to kind of buying impulsively and not always asking myself if it was worth it and just spending way too much money. And I'd say I've done a pretty decent job at reeling it back in. But even though I've come a long way from radio contest connoisseur to concert splurger to a more grounded budgeter, I would still say I need help. And that's why I turned to finance expert Alejandra Rojas to help us all figure out how to keep doing what we love as fans without going broke in the process. Alejandra Rojas is an entrepreneur, writer, and founder of Brown Way to Money, a financial mentoring platform that helps women overcome financial trauma and improve their relationship with money. She also is the host of the Brown Way to Money podcast. Alejandra provides a unique blend of financial expertise and trauma-informed coaching, empowering women of color to break free from limiting beliefs and create financial abundance. She delves into the emotional and psychological roots of money problems, helping women heal from past experiences and develop a healthier, empowered relationship with their finances. Thank you so much for joining me today.
My pleasure to be here. Thank you for inviting me.
Entertainment is such a huge part of young people's lives, whether it's concerts or streaming services or just collecting merch. But as fun as all of it can be, it can also get very expensive. I wanted to know, when you think about budgeting for entertainment, what's the first piece of advice that you would give to someone who really wants to enjoy their interest without going broke?
Here's the thing. You need to plan for it. So you can enjoy everything that you want to enjoy, but when you have a plan, when you have not only looking at your entertainment, but you have an overall vision of your whole life and plan accordingly, it can be doable. You can make it happen and it doesn't feel like you're going to break your bank. So what I often do is to sit down for like each quarter or each semester of the year and think about the goals. What is my big goal for my life? And what are the, let's call it, micro goals within the quarters or within the months that I want to accomplish. And within those goals, there are entertainments. So just like this summertime is a time for concerts, right? So I know that the quarter that I'm planning the summertime, I am going to plan for the concerts that I want to go, or the outings that I want to do, or the merch that I want to buy. And that becomes part of the routine that I do during my planning, but definitely needs to fit in with the vision that you have for your overall life and how that plays out.
Right, so it's kind of just a matter of balancing those needs with wants and setting goals. But what would you say are some common spending mistakes with young people when they're trying to balance all of those things?
Right. So not everything is a need, but everything is a want. So when you are doing your balancing act of what do I need to put in first, I want you to think on what do you actually need to live, to survive, and what you actually committed to pay already. So if that looks like, well, your rent, utilities, food, things that you know that makes you a better human because you are investing on it. In my case, I have a co-working space because I'm an entrepreneur, and working from home doesn't fit my mental health most of the time because it's too many things at home, right? So I know that inside of my needs, it's planning for a space outside that I can go to work. What I want you to do is to analyze what is that for you. Is it your gym membership because it keeps your mind and your body in shape? Is it your food that instead of going for the cheapest food, you want to nourish your body? Is it, I don't know, like think about what is the lifestyle that you want to have and that you're having, and what is the requirement, like what are those expenses that are required for you to have that. Now when we go to wants and feeding a lifestyle, the difference here is, first, you can plan for wanting things, for your desired things, but that requires you a planning ahead in the future, meaning that let's say today I want to increase my membership or change my gym from the one that I'm paying $35 to the one that offers a spa and pool that costs me $100, right? So if that is what I want to do, it's not a need because I'm still getting gym done, I will put it down into a timeline. So it doesn't have to happen now, but I want it to happen within this year. So I will break it down and work backwards. If I want that thing to happen, how much I need to save now, how do I need to shift my expenses so that I can invest on this later on, in 3 months from now, in 4 months from now. So you can always plan for it, and you should put it down into your timeline of financial planning. But you need to have a clear understanding of what is going to be crucial to maintain the lifestyle that you want and to maintain your whole being as a human being, and what is something like an add-on to that.
That's really great to keep in mind. And you kind of touched on something that I was really curious about, planning in advance. When you know that there's a concert coming up or a tour that might be coming because your favorite artist just dropped an album, how can fans plan for that in advance?
Here's the thing. You can go with the planning of the artist, because an artist is not going to drop the news that, oh, I'm going on a tour a month before they start touring. That's not how it works, because they need marketing. They need people, like they need time for people to hear that they are coming, to hear there. So work with that planning. It's usually 1 year. People that is coming, like the concerts that we are having during summer, they have been announced last fall, or certainly like 4 or 5 months in advance. So the moment that you hear, because I'm guessing this is your super, like you're super fan of this person, that you know and you are up to date to all of their movements. Just like the first moment that you hear that this person may come for a concert that you want to go, start planning. Start thinking, how much are the tickets? What do I want to wear? What do I want to, like the whole experience? What do you want to do? Do you want to spend some time eating before the concert? Do you have to travel for some of these concerts? And start thinking about the whole experience and put numbers to that whole experience the moment that you hear about it. And then break it down with a timeline. So if you hear about a summer concert on fall, you have around 6 months or 7 months, solid months, where you can plan. So break down that full number for your experience into 7, and you see how you can fit it. If it is too much, like if you don't see how you can fit that within your budget, you have a couple of options. You can start generating more income with a side hustle. You can reduce some expenses and start allocating money for that, or you can reevaluate your whole experience and see what really will be essential for you to be doing in order to have the same experience, and work with those numbers.
Yeah, that's so true. Like concerts will get announced way in advance, and sometimes I'm like, this isn't going to sell out. I'll make a mental hierarchy in my mind of like the order that artists are coming to town, and I'll handle one at a time based on demand. But then some artists, their tickets do sell out immediately. It's like tour announcement on a Monday, pre-sales Wednesday and Thursday, and public on sale Friday, and it's done within a week. Tickets are gone. Resale is now starting at $300, $400. So for those fans that do feel that desperation to get tickets as soon as they go on sale, if they haven't already budgeted or been saving up before, there's this feature called Buy Now, Pay Later. And those are programs like Klarna or Afterpay. They're also available for merchandise as well. And I wanted to know, what's your take on these programs? Do you think they can be a good budgeting tool, or is it safer to do it on your own by setting money aside in your own savings account?
Listen, I learned from somebody that said this a long time ago, that if you have to use a buy now, pay later tool, you cannot afford it. And that is true. That is just giving you credit to do something. Now, what you need to be mindful of in your 20s and even in your 30s is that you are building your financial life, not only with the records like credit score and your bank accounts, but you are actually building your financial habits. So when you use these things and you let the emotional brain lead these financial actions or this behavior, you are sending a pretty good signal to your brain that this is how you want to live your financial life for literally every single time. The use of those tools, they are there for a reason. They are there to kind of like bring a solution to a market that doesn't know about financial planning or is led by that emotion of wanting the experience. But what I want you to do is to think about, if you are in that situation, think about how that specific decision of buy now, paying later will serve you or will not serve you in a year from that moment. Because a concert or merchandise is 1 day, 3 days, 1 week, let's say, the experience. You may live with that experience for a month or 2 months, but you will be carrying the real financial trigger on your bank statement, the real financial trigger on the messaging reminding that you have to still pay that you already enjoyed for months to come. So it is a tool, like loans are tools, credit cards are tools. These are all financial tools that are your service. But as a consumer, what you have to do is to be very critical about how the use of those tools are serving you, not only now to satisfy that emotional, that craving of oxytocin, like, oh, I need to do this because of the whole marketing. And these are artists. They have the great marketing team behind them. So they know what they're doing. The fact that you're feeling that pressure and that emotion is all really intentional, crafted. But it is in your hands to understand how that decision is going to impact you, not only in that moment, but a year from that moment, 5 years from that moment, and perhaps starting your robust financial life, like applying for a mortgage or starting your own business. Like, these are the kind of decisions, or these are the kind of thoughts that you would want to have if you are facing that situation where you feel the rush to pay for something.
I'm so glad you said that. It's so, so important because I always hear people and I'm like, I hope they're joking. Like, they'll talk about going into debt for following their favorite artist on tour. And it's like, it's a great experience, I'm sure. I'm all for making memories. But to me, it kind of feels like you're focusing only on living now and you're going to pay for it later if doing all of that is setting you financially behind. So it's just so important to kind of heed that warning and remember the risk that you're taking when you make those decisions. Do you have any tools or apps that you recommend fans use to better budget with their entertainment expenses?
Yes, I use one. It's a software, it's not an app. And the reason why I like it so much is because it is a software and requires me to sit down and really dedicate time to my money. And it's called Lunch Money. And it's for free, actually. You can make your account for free. And I think it costs $50 per year. And you can consolidate all of your accounts. So if you are like me, who has a business and your personal lives, and I have my bank account with my partner as well, I can see all of the accounts in one place, and I can track it down and budget from that place. So Lunch Money is a really good software. You can also have apps like Mint, YNAB. You need a budget. And you can also do it in pen and paper. Please don't let technology to stop you from doing this. It is as easy as sitting down and write down one column that it's named activities, another column that is has the dates for those activities, and another column that has the amounts for those activities. And start writing down and tracking down what you're doing with your money. Where is it going? And then next week, after you have done that, go ahead and do exactly the same columns, but projected. What do you want to accomplish? What do you want your money to go to? Like, what is the planning? And I start there. You don't have to overcomplicate things. I can also send you a link where I have an Excel template if you don't want to have an app. That's also a good option.
That's really helpful. And it's so important, like you said, to not overcomplicate things. Like right now, I'm working my budget out of a Google Doc. It's just important that you stay on top of it and make sure you know where your money is going and why.
Right. That's the most important thing, becoming aware. That's the thing that people has most resistant to, because people don't want to know where the money is going. But when you become aware of that, you reclaim your power with money. You reclaim the power of saying, well, I know that this is what I'm spending, and now I intentionally want to decide to spend in other things that aligned more with what I want for my life. So that is the power of tracking and really planning with your money.
Before we wrap, is there anything else we didn't discuss that you think may be important for fans to know?
If I were to say something, is like enjoy so much each experience, but also make sure that you are building for your future self, that you are living this experience that you want to live now with future self in mind, so that when future self come around, you actually can enjoy that future self as well, and not put her or him to pay for the past. It's like you are creating your future right now, quite literally. So enjoy it and have that in mind as well.
Awesome. Thank you so much. This has all been extremely helpful. Where can people find more of your budgeting tips?
Yes, you can go to Instagram at Money Mindset Expert, but for the best conversations and tips, just find us where you're listening to this podcast. We are the Brown Way to Money podcast, and we go deep into mindset and all of these emotional, psychological triggers with money, so that you can build a financial independence path.
So that was Alejandra Rojas with some really great advice, helping us think through the bigger picture, the mindset behind financial responsibility, the importance of planning ahead, and how to build habits that keep our spending in check. But now I want to zoom in a little, because budgeting is one thing, but what about when you've already decided, I'm going to this concert? What then? That's where Kristal Terrell comes in. She's a content creator and concert pro from New Orleans. Having attended hundreds of concerts and music festivals over the last decade, she's a concert connoisseur who has taken to social media to share concert and travel tips and hacks, and she's here to share some with us today. Thank you so much for joining me today. You go to a lot of concerts and shows. What would you say are some underrated tricks that you've had to make concerts more affordable?
I recently actually just started using this plugin. It's called Concert Pal. It's like a Chrome extension. And so when you're buying tickets, I don't know if it works in like Ticketmaster and Access, but I know on like resale sites, if you're on like StubHub or SeatGeek, it'll show you as you're like going to like compare prices. It'll be like, hey, this exact ticket is on a different site and is cheaper with fees included, or like maybe a seat in a similar section is a bit cheaper. You should go look on this site. So that's helped me just like guarantee I'm getting the cheapest option. I know concert tickets are expensive. In the past, doing pre-sale, general sale would guarantee that you would get the cheapest ticket, but that's not always an option. But I think just going into a sale, knowing how much you want to spend will help you to not overspend. For example, Beyonce's Cowboy Carter tour recently went on sale. My friends and I decided our like max spend each would be like $250. So like going in, I knew like we're not going over that. I don't care how cheap or like what the price is looking like for floor. Like let's not exceed it. And we were able to spend like only $175. So then like girl math is telling me, okay, well the merch I'm inevitably going to buy is kind of free because I was planning on spending $250. And I think also just like looking around TikTok, I personally post a lot of like different tips, different like codes you can use on resale sites. There are some discounts, but yeah, just doing a little research before you make the purchase.
Yeah, that plugin sounds really cool. I've actually never heard of that one, but that sounds like a really great thing to keep in mind, because even when tickets do go on sale, it's like you can have a set price in mind that you want to pay, but then they start going up because of dynamic pricing and all of that. So it can definitely get really crazy. I kind of wanted to ask, you mentioned a little bit, but what are your thoughts on resale sites? Because back in the day, I feel like I used to rely on resale sites to get tickets for cheap at the very last minute, but now things can get pretty crazy on there. Do you have any strategies for finding the best deals on resale sites? Like, do you think sometimes they can go down, or is it still very up in the air?
Sometimes they can go down. I think it also depends on the artist. So, for example, like someone like Taylor Swift, Beyonce, Sabrina Carpenter, the prices aren't going down, unfortunately. I learned that the hard way. I had a friend who tried for Sabrina, waited until day of, and in fact, the prices went higher day of, which is crazy. And then they're like done at box office. So it's just kind of a risk to wait. But then there are other times where, you know, I think it was Kaylani last year, my friend was able to score a ticket for under face value because someone was clearly just trying to get the ticket off their hands that they couldn't resell for overpriced. So it kind of varies. It's a betting game, I feel like, and you're taking a risk, but when you get that lower price ticket, it is worth it. But yeah, resale sites, they definitely aren't what they used to be. I can agree on that.
Okay, yeah, you just mentioned two really great things. One, the box office. Sometimes the box office gives out last minute tickets at a fair price. I feel like if your date is at the beginning of the tour, then you have the best shot because once word gets out and it's on TikTok, the lines get crazy for those. But then you also mentioned kind of just like finding people online who may be reselling. Sometimes fans will resell their tickets for cheaper too. So I think that's a good tip because I've bought concert tickets off people on Twitter. I've also sold tickets to things on Twitter. You just have to be very, very careful because the scammers are 100% out there and it's insane. It can get very tricky. So I'm just going to plug that if you do that, please use PayPal goods and services or one of those, like research wherever you can to make sure that you are sending your money somewhere where they will give you your money back if there is an issue. Because I think Cash App and Zelle and stuff, that's what the scammers use because those programs, they don't give you your money back if you get scammed. You will just lose your money. So please keep that in mind if you're going to buy off the internet. I wanted to know also, have you seen any other creative ways, maybe like credit card deals or just fan pre-sales in general to help save money?
I think credit cards are a good way, even if it's not just like with the ticket purchase itself, but even using a travel credit card if you have to travel out of state to go see an artist live. So you're saving money by like accumulating points and using those points to book your flights or your hotels. Or some credit cards do have, like I have a Chase card, and I know for specific venues like the Chase Center or Madison Square Garden, they'll have Chase pre-sales. So that helps me to get like face value tickets for some like big shows. And then I know like I use Rakuten. It's usually like 1% to 2% cash back, but if you're buying like a big ticket purchase, it adds up. But that's another like Chrome extension or plugin you can use where you can get cash back on certain ticket buying sites. But yeah, I guess so. I know like also like T-Mobile and Verizon, some of them have like ticket deals or like free tickets you can win. I know Verizon has pre-sales for certain tours. I know for Cowboy Carter tour, they had a pre-sale. I know T-Mobile does face value tickets for some tours, like Sabrina Carpenter's Short and Sweet tour last year. I think a month out from each date, you were able to go in and try to buy like face value pit tickets if you're a T-Mobile customer. So there are some deals depending on like what cards, what phone services, things you have.
That's all really great to keep in mind. And you just mentioned it a little bit. A lot of fans do travel for concerts now, and that can add up super fast. I wanted to ask if you had any travel hacks for cutting down spending costs when people want to travel somewhere to go to a show.
If you have a friend that lives in the town, try to stay with them. So you have a free place to stay. And if you can't, try to make it a group trip. I have like a core group of friends who are always usually down to travel to shows. And so that way we're able to split the place we're staying at. And then sometimes it's cheaper to take a train or a bus or even just like road trip versus flying. And then always book refundable places and like refundable tickets because concerts, unfortunately, can be unpredictable. Artists can get sick, things can happen, shows can cancel. So always book refundable things so you're not out of money, like if the show doesn't happen. And then also book hotels before you even buy the tickets. I know that sounds crazy, but like dynamic pricing for tickets, they have dynamic pricing for hotels. So when like a big tour is going to a city, the hotel prices go up because everyone's looking at them. So before, if you know like, hey, I'm going to Nashville to see Sabrina Carpenter, book that place to stay and then focus on buying the tickets.
Yeah, that's so important. They really do spike the prices for hotels. And I've learned that the hard way so many times. Like last year, I went to Lollapalooza and I decided to go at like the last minute, like 2 months before maybe. And we had to stay an hour away because it was so expensive and everything nearby was either thousands of dollars or sold out. And so that definitely is something important to keep in mind, because if you end up not making the concert, a lot of those hotels do give you refunds if you cancel like a week in advance or 2 days in advance. You just have to read the terms. So it's better to have it and then cancel than to need it and not be able to get it.
Agreed.
Would you say that you have any other must-know hacks for maybe other things at concerts to save money on, like merch or food or parking?
Do like a little search ahead of time for parking. I know when Eras Tour came to New Orleans, a lot of people were reaching out to me asking about like, oh, where should I park? And all of my go-to places that I normally would park for shows here in New Orleans were hiked up in pricing, but some of them weren't if you pre-booked online. So like check, some of them are refundable, some of them aren't. So keep that in mind, but check in advance and try to like search around to see what like is the best parking options before you go. Merch, unless you're like going to opening night, I like to look on like TikTok or Twitter and see if fans have posted what merch is available. So I go in knowing, okay, I'm buying these 2 items, like this is how much money I have allocated for it. I'm not straying. But also sometimes you can wait because the merch is available online. I know a lot of artists I've seen in recent years, the merch is like once the tour ends, the merch is online and then discounted. And you know, I could have waited to have that tour shirt. It wasn't like a city specific piece of merch. So sometimes it's worth waiting it out. And then for food, I like to eat before I get to the venue because venue food pricing can be expensive and sometimes the options aren't that great. So try to make it a fun night out if you're going with friends, find a place nearby where you can like eat and then walk over to the show.
Those are all really great tips, especially with merch, because for the Eras Tour, I waited in line for so long and I just wanted like the basic t-shirt, the tour t-shirt that she had. And she later just put it on her website and it was for sale because you got a discount for going to the show anyways. And I wish I knew that before instead of taking time to go and wait in the line. So definitely make sure that you research stuff like that in advance.
Yes.
Now, before we wrap, if you could give fans one final, ultimate, money-saving hack that they probably don't know about, what would it be?
I think you brought up a good point with Lollapalooza. I saw the lineup that was announced today and it had like Olivia Rodrigo, Tyler, the Creator, Sabrina Carpenter, Gracie Abrams. And I think festivals are a good hack where go to a festival, pay $400. I know you don't have like a guaranteed close-up view like you do at a concert, but paying $400 to see all of these artists at one festival that would cost you like thousands and thousands if you saw them individually can save you a lot of time, a lot of money. So I think that's one hack people don't even consider a hack.
Yeah, I definitely agree because I was not interested in festivals for a long time just because I was kind of turned off by like the big crowds and the pictures you would see online where it's like a sea of people. But going there, I really felt like it was such a steal because you can see so many big artists, some people that don't even tour that often, and it's like one flat price and you get like a whole weekend, like 3 to 4 days worth of back-to-back concerts, basically. It's really great. Where can people find more of your content about concerts online?
All of my socials are the same. They're at Kristal Terrell on TikTok, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and I share like concert tips, hacks, and deals.
Awesome. Thank you so much for joining me. This was really great. All of these tips and advice, they're super helpful for fans that are looking to save money going to shows.
Thank you for having me.
Huge thanks to Kristal again for sharing those tips. She dropped some really great gems for making concerts affordable. But of course, concerts aren't the only place where fan spending happens. So before we wrap up, I want to quickly zoom back out and do a little rundown about how some of those budgeting strategies can apply across other parts of the entertainment world. First up with Broadway, check and see if a show has a rush, lottery, or standing room only option. Most shows have at least one, and you definitely want to check because these are easy ways to get discounted tickets. The lottery is more of a contest system, but with rush and standing room only, you usually just have to show up to the box office the day of when they first open and wait in a line, and hopefully you're one of the first people to get tickets. Student and under 35 discounts are also a thing. Take advantage while you can. And go to the box office also if you're local because you'll skip the fees and sometimes get better seats. Sites like TodayTix and TKTS can also help you save, especially last minute. For my movie fans listening out there, if you go often, AMC A-List or Regal Unlimited is the move. And this is hashtag not sponsored, but the savings add up fast. I used to be a walking ad for AMC A-List in college. All my friends subscribed because I would always tell them, it's so good. I live at the movies. I'd always get my money's worth. But if you don't want to do a subscription service, obviously remember matinees and weekdays for movies are usually cheaper. For my people that like to do conventions or Comic-Con or festivals or any other special events, buy your tickets early. If you can, remember, make sure you have enough to buy them, but early bird pricing is real. So sometimes they have different tiers. Like for music festivals, for example, it'll be tier 1. And then after a certain date or after they've sold a certain amount of tickets, they will increase that price. So you want to make sure you're locking in at the cheapest price possible. So definitely watch out for that. You can also volunteer at events to earn free admission. A lot of fan conventions offer this, and it also ties back into concerts. Look into organizations like Reverb or Headcount. They're really great organizations in terms of the work they're doing, but they're also a great way to see the show for free. I volunteered with Reverb for the Hit Me Hard and Soft tour, and it was a super fun and smooth experience, and I got to see Billie Eilish completely for free after a couple hours of work. And again, it's for a great cause. I'd also plug radio contests. As I said, that's the thing that I used all these years, but I have to admit it's very, very, very different now. I can't even say that it's a great way to get tickets anymore. I won't even really recommend it to you because, one, they don't seem to give away stuff as much as they used to, and when they do, the methods are a bit different. Like with call-ins, for example, I know with my local station, it used to be like, be caller 100. And that was like easy. That was chill. Now it's weird stuff like, tell us your meanest opinion about your boss. The best one wins. And it's so wild because it'll be tickets for like Gracie Abrams, whose fandom is primarily teens and they aren't even in corporate America. Like there's a mismatch there, but I digress. I'll say keep your eye out for them, but it's not all that great trying to win them anymore. So our lesson today, it's okay to invest in your passions, but it's also okay to remember that you're engaging with an industry who is using emotional tactics to pull more spending out of you. You must set boundaries with your spending. That goes with everything, but especially with your fandoms. Fandoms should bring you joy, not financial stress. At the end of the day, it's about finding a balance, enjoying the experiences that matter most to you while staying mindful of your budget, your priorities, and your peace of mind. I do hope one day that ticket prices get under control. It seems like things have been crazy since the pandemic. And obviously, lawmakers have started to take notice, and we're seeing more and more conversations around regulating prices and banning bots and just protecting consumers from predatory resellers. But until then, the best thing we can do is make smart choices, look out for each other, and remember your worth as a fan is not defined by how much you spend. Special thanks again to Alejandra and Kristal for sharing some really great tips. Their info is also in our description and in our class notes on Substack if you want to follow them for more. And this week's discussion board, I want to hear from you. What's the most you've spent on your favorite artist? No shame, share it with us. And was it worth it? Let me know over on Instagram at School of Pop HQ or on Substack at schoolofpop.substack.com. Real quick before we go, I've got some exciting news. I'm graduating with my master's degree this week. I'm so excited. It's been such a long journey. It's been like 20 years straight nonstop of school, and I'm so ready to be done. But don't worry, I will always still be a student at the School of Pop. With that being said, as I wrap up school, travel for graduation, and just take a much needed breather, the podcast is officially going on a late spring break. We'll be back June 11th with the second half of our season, and trust me, this is where things really start to get interesting. This semester was always designed with two distinct parts. In the first half, we've been examining how fandom shows up in the real world, from concerts to theater stage doors and fan art and finances. But next, we're going to start shifting into the emotional and psychological heart of fandom. We'll be talking about the why behind it all, a lot more than we have been so far. And that's looking at the industry systems, the internal pressures, and just the connections that shape the way we behave as fans. So our midterm episode on parasocial relationships, that's going to kick it all off on the 11th. And it's honestly the anchor of the whole semester. I can't wait for you to hear it. In the meantime, feel free to catch up on the first 5 episodes, the first half of our season, and make sure that you're subscribed to the Class Notes newsletter at schoolofpop.substack.com. Thanks for being here and listening to the first half so far, sending me such great feedback, and I cannot wait to see you back in class on June 11th. We've got a lot to learn and a lot to talk about. Thanks for attending class at the School of Pop. If you enjoyed this session, please complete a course evaluation by leaving a 5-star review and share the show with a friend for extra credit. Make sure you're subscribed to School of Pop on Substack so you can get your class notes and review what we discussed today, including your homework, aka the list of references and recommendations I gave throughout this episode. That's at schoolofpop.substack.com. You can also show your school spirit by following along on Instagram at School of Pop HQ. For more pop culture fun, follow at FanFave Media, the home of School of Pop, the Pop Recap newsletter, and so much more. See you in class next week.
This has been a FanFave Media production.